Love you were absent yesterday? Present. So which situations do we use indirect inquiry? Under which circumstances or situations is indirect inquiry suitable?
When the field of inquiry is wide enough,
When the field of inquiry is wide enough?
when the inquiry, when the source is not available,
When the source itself does not exist, then no, keep silence, tired, don't problem between.
when the inquiry is in complex,
Information is of complex nature. Then one more point is there. Yes.
So when the time is less and our personal contact matter is not available.
That they said that when inquiry is very wide nature, time is less, and so personal contact might not be possible. What else?
Information is complex.
Information is of complex nature.
Source is if source is died,
Source does not exist.
he is not unwilling of
No. Namrata? Is it?
When the cost of direct inquiry is unbearable.
When the cost of direct inquiry is very good. So what is the short form I tell you for this? Fixed. Personal contact is not possible due to wide scope of inquiry as well as lack of time. Information is of complex nature, CBI, CID, etc. Cost is unavailable. Limited budget you have, you cannot spend much money, so instead of direct inquiry, you go in for indirect inquiry. And when the source itself does not exist, then you don't have any option but to go in for indirect inquiry. Then last third bench. What is your name? Isha. So Isha, tell me, what are the advantages of indirect inquiry? It is very useful in the various government departments to conduct the survey. Second, when the respondent is unwilling to give the information, when the field of inquiry is very wide enough, it involves less cost, time, energy, and very good. So what is the short form here we have seen? Lovely, great, you. Lovely L stands for less cost, time, energy, and money. Then grade G stands for government departments generally use it. Then U stands for unwilling. When respondents are unwilling to give the information, you have to conduct indirect inquiry. And will W stands for wide scope of inquiry. Can cover the wide scope of inquiry. And two disadvantages we had. What is your name? Okay.
Yeah. The third party will not be dishonest. The third party will be dishonest.
If the third party is dishonest or inefficient, we cannot get the correct information. And one more. Not unbiased, biased. If the person or organization from whom you are collecting the information is biased or prejudiced, then you cannot get correct information. So, take out your textbooks. No, don't take out your textbooks. Today we'll do reverse. First we'll do the remembering part, then we'll see the textbook. Okay? What is questionnaire? Raise your hand. What is a questionnaire? Mohit.
List of questions arranged in the logical method. It is subspace given right here.
Very good, correct. A list of questions arranged in a logical order with the space provided for the answers is called questionnaire. Now what we are going to study today, the subjective answer is characteristics of questionnaire. Characteristics or requisites of questionnaire. Come in. What is your name? Deep Upadhyay. 10 minutes late. By 3:30 you must be here. Before 3:30 you must be here. Okay, I start the classes sharp at 3:30 normally. So, which was the seat allotted to you? Come on the third bench right now. Before going verify the seats allotted. Okay. Yes, so we are going to study the characteristics or requisites of a question. Means how the questionnaire should be. So understand that first. Okay, characteristics or requisites. What do you mean by requisites? Of questionnaire. Yes, what do you mean by requisites? Requirements, necessities. What are the necessary points to be kept in mind when you make a questionnaire? So what are the characteristics or requisites? Means requirements of a good questionnaire. Okay, requirements of a good questionnaire. Now, how to remember this answer? Questionnaire means compare it with like your question paper of school exams. Questionnaire means compare it like it is a question paper of your school exams. How should the question paper of your school exams be? Can I say scoring? How should the question paper of your exams be always? Scoring for you. What is important is that the question paper should be scoring. So that way you remember. What are the characteristics of questionnaire? It should be scoring. Now what is this scoring? S stands for short and simple to understand. Short and simple to understand. Means if you come across a questionnaire where question itself is of 3 lines. 3 lines means they ask you, when did you start your first education, stating your family background in the place and in which country and in which state did you start that. Means 3-4 things merged in a single question. Question itself is of 3-4 lines. Normally, when you answer such questions which you receive by post etc., you will not read only such questions. If a small question comes, what is your age? Question mark, over. You'll answer that. 16 years, 15 years, whatever it is. Short question is asked, in which standard do you study? Standard 11th. But if a 3-4 line question comes, then people generally avoid answering such questions. Because reading 3 lines and then understanding what is written in 3 lines is very difficult. So first thing we should keep in mind in making a questionnaire is that it should be short and simple to understand. Any confusion in that? Okay. Then C stands for calculation free. Calculations or mathematics, you all have seen your performance in mathematics intensely. So normally if calculations are involved in any questionnaire, then that becomes very difficult for anyone to solve. And no one would be always sitting with a calculator etc. to answer your questions. The moment they come across calculative questions, they leave it, they will not answer it, they leave it blank. So that questions would remain unanswered. Okay, therefore whenever you ask any questions, it should not involve any calculations. There should be calculation-free questions. Is everyone clear with that? Asking a question, what income you earn is proper. But if you ask someone, what is the average income of your last 5 years? No one is going to count. The last 5 years I was earning how much income, then total of those 5 years divided by 5, no one is going to calculate that. So any question which involves calculations should be avoided. Any confusions in this? Then O stands for 2 points here. One is order should be logical, that we have studied in the definition itself. That order should be logical. Suppose you want to know a family background of someone. Then how would it look if you ask the question, first question comes, how many children do you have? First question comes, how many children do you have? Second question comes, are you married? Is it a proper logical order? What is the proper logical order? First you ask, are you married? Yes or no? Then you ask the question, if yes, how many children do you So a proper logical order should be maintained by making a question. Is everyone clear with this? And one more, it should be objective. It should not be subjective. What do you mean by objective? Means the answers should be in yes or no. Multiple choice options should be given where they just have to select the correct one. They just have to tick on the correct one. Or answers should be in numbers like age, etc., standard, etc. These all are considered to be objective questions. Okay, they should not be subjective. The moment you come across a descriptive question where they say describe yourself in 5 lines, you leave it blank. Or any descriptive kind of question, which kind of place you like to go to a vacation, describe it in 5 lines, you leave it blank. They say answer in 1 word, you say beach. In 1 word you can answer it, but they say describe it in 4 or 5 lines, they leave it blank. So they should never be subjective, they should be objective. Objective means answer should be in yes or no. Multiple choice options should be given or answers should be in numbers. Any confusion so far? Then R stands for relevant. The questions asked should be relevant to the purpose of inquiry. Gaurav, the timings are 3:30. 15 minutes late. See that you reach by 3:30 normally, okay? Which seat you have in the lottery, any idea? Come on the second bench right now. Gaurav and Deep, before going today, you verify your seat numbers, okay? I think this is your first period, right? Both of yours? Okay. So, relevant. R stands for? Relevant means whatever questions you ask should be relevant to the purpose of inquiry. Irrelevant questions should not be asked. If you are conducting the survey about the IQ of students, what do you mean by IQ? What do you mean by IQ? Intelligence question. IQ means intelligence. What is the spelling of question? Quotiient. No. Quotient. This question is not that question. Here, intelligence question means your general knowledge, common sense, which is very uncommon. IQ means your common sense and general knowledge. Okay? So, if you are wanting to know the IQ of the students, then there is no point in asking them the questions, how many friends do you have? How many girlfriends do you have? How many days you go for a movie in the month? These questions have no relevance with the purpose of your inquiry. If a person goes 10 days a movie in a month, it doesn't mean that his IQ is weak. Or if a person goes only once in a month for a movie, it doesn't mean that his IQ is good. These questions does not affect your inquiry. Such questions should not be included. What you should ask are only those questions which are relevant, related to the purpose of your inquiry. Is everyone clear with that? Then I stands for idea about the objective, which will be obtained through the title. Questionnaire should always have title. Like I just now said, what I want to know about IQ of the students. So questionnaire will be given an title, an ideal title that get to know your IQ, test your knowledge, something like that. Okay, which gives you an idea what is a questionnaire about. So whenever you give any title or heading to the questionnaire, it should be given in such a manner that the reader gets an idea about the objective which you are fulfilling through that questionnaire. What purpose you want to serve through the questionnaire, that idea the reader should always get through the title. Is everyone clear with this? Any confusion so far? Raise your hand. Then N stands for number of questions. How many questions should normally a questionnaire include? 10, 15, 20. Correct. Normally 10 to 20 questions. They should not be many in number. There is no fixed number. But the number of questions should not be many and there should not be too less also. 7-8 questions will become too less. Because 3-4 questions are wasted in asking name, age, address, etc. etc. So questionnaire should have around 15 to 20 questions which are ideal to serve the purpose of your inquiry. What will happen if there are many? People will not answer it. If you get a questionnaire with 100 questions, you'll tear it straight away. You'll not fill it up. Why will you fill up 100 questions and then send it back to someone? You'll leave it blank. And if it has only 10 or 5 questions, it will not serve your purpose. So, number of questions should be adequate. What do you mean by adequate? Neither more nor less. What if they are more? Respondents will not answer it. And what if they are less? Your purpose of inquiry will not be fulfilled. Are you okay with this? Last third bit, what is your name? Yes.
Okay.
How do you spell it?
SOHEL.
Okay, Sohail. What do you mean by adequate?
Adequate means
Yawning in the class is the only time which married men get to open their mouth at home. I am married, I know my problem. At home, I can open my mouth only when I yawn, otherwise I cannot open my mouth. You are married or unmarried? So please don't yawn in my class. Okay? Be attentive to what is going on. Yes, what do you mean by adequate? Neither more nor less. What will happen if they are more in number? Respondents will not answer it. And what if they are less in number? Our purpose, our objective cannot be fulfilled with very less number of questions. So 15 to 20 is ideal number of questions. So what do you mean by adequate?
the number of questions not would not be more not be more than less.
Very good, sir. Is everyone clear with that? Okay. And still, if you feel that at least 40 questions are required, without that your purpose cannot be fulfilled, then divide them in groups, sections. 40 questions, divide them in 2 sections. Section 1, 20 questions. Section 2, at least if the reader reads the last question number, he will come across the number 20 only. Once he starts filling, then he'll find 20 is only for one section. But at least he'll start filling the questionnaire. So still, if the questions number are more and they cannot be avoided, then what should you do? Divide it in groups or sections. Is everyone clear with this? And the last one, G. Going personal should be avoided. Personal questions should not be asked. Suppose you are launching a new mobile. You want to know people will purchase the mobile or not. That doesn't mean that you ask a question, personal question like, do you have an extramarital affair? It may serve your purpose. It may be relevant. Because you will feel that if a person has extramarital affair, then he'll buy 2 mobiles. One for Garwani, one for Barwani. Your purpose is fulfilled with that. But such questions should not be asked. Suppose you have 20 questions, 18th question is, do you have any extramarital affair? 17 questions is answer. The moment he reads 18th question, he'll tell the questioner. He'll not send you back writing that, yes, I have an extramarital affair. No one will write that and vouch that I have an extramarital affair. So, going personal should be strictly avoided. Any personal questions should not be asked. Did everyone understand it?
Yes.
From this chapter, it is the most important question from exam's point of view. For 4 to 5 marks, it can be asked. Okay? Yes. You have to explain it. So, if they ask you what are the characteristics of a questionnaire, what will you answer? It should be scoring. Scoring S, short and simple to understand. C, calculation. Calculations should not be involved. O, order should be logical and also objective. These answers should be in yes or no, MCQs or numbers. Then R, relevant. Relevant questions should be asked. Irrelevant questions should not be asked. I, Yes, idea about the objective should be always obtained from the title of the question. Reader should get an idea about the scene. And number of questions should be adequate, neither more nor less. And G, going personal should be avoided. And here still if the number of questions are more, what can be done? Divided into various sections or groups. Any confusion in this? Now look at your textbooks. Page number 6. Method of questionnaire. Do you find it, everyone? Last bench. What is your name? Yeah. Last, yes. Khushi. Read the method of questionnaire.
List of logically arranged questions relevant to the object of study is made. The space between the questions is provided for the answers. A list of questions prepared in such a way is called questionnaire. The method of obtaining information using such type of questionnaire is called a method of questionnaire.
Underline the full paragraph. So we have already done this in the class also. What is a questionnaire? A list of logically arranged questions relevant to the object of study is made. Thereafter, the space between the questions is provided for the answers. A list of questions prepared in such a way is called questionnaire. And the method of getting the information through such questionnaire is called method of questionnaire. Yes, further.
The questions in the questionnaire should be short and simple so that the respondent can understand the questions and easily answer them. This method is quite useful when the field or area from which the information is to be collected is very wide.
Very wide means lakhs of people. Then visiting lakhs of people personally is very difficult. What is the best method? Send them the questionnaire by post. These days by email, etc. Give them some incentive to get it back as early as possible. So very wide survey can be done.
Since there is considerable saving of time and cost in this method, it is most economical method of inquiry. Questionnaire may be used in direct inquiry as well as indirect inquiry.
Even another this sentence. Even in direct inquiry and indirect inquiry, you can use the questionnaire. When you go for the direct inquiry, carry the questionnaire along with you. That itself becomes questionnaire by enumerative method. And even in indirect inquiry, when you contact the person acquainted with the respondents, carry a questionnaire along with you. So even in direct inquiry and indirect inquiry, you can carry a questionnaire along with you.
There are two ways of collecting information by questionnaire, by post and by enumerator. Before discussing the above two methods in next section, we shall discuss the points which should be kept in mind for drafting an ideal questionnaire.
Now I'll read it for the characteristics of an ideal questionnaire. The success of collecting data depends mainly on the design of questionnaire. A well-designed questionnaire is known as an ideal questionnaire. The following points should be kept in mind while drafting an ideal questionnaire. First, every questionnaire must have a covering letter or an appropriate title so that the reader gets a clear idea about the purpose of study. So underline appropriate title and underline idea about the purpose of study. Circle the word idea on the left side, write down I. At the top you can write that short form. What is that? Scoring. That you can mention at the top. Okay. First point stands for I. Second, number of questions should be as minimum as possible. As I said, adequate, neither more nor less. The fewer number of questions have greater chance of getting better response from the respondent. Long questions discourage the respondent to provide accurate answers, particularly towards the end of questionnaire. Means 14-15 questions you'll answer perfectly well. If there are 30-40 questions and after 15, you'll start making guesses and try to wind it up as early as possible. There is no specific rule for exact number of questions. But if the number of questions is large, say 25 or more, it is advisable to divide the questionnaire into various parts to ensure the clarity of questions. So, unlike if the number of questions is large, divide into various parts. Last sentence. If the number of questions is large, divide into various parts. And first sentence, unlike number of questions, should be as minimum as possible. Circle the word number. On the left side, write down n. Further, the number of questions in the questionnaire should be consistent with the purpose of inquiry. And then consistent, about that write down relevant. Consistent means relevant. And on the left side, write down the point as R. Are you okay with that? Questions should be simple, short and understandable. And then simple, short and understandable on the left side. Mark it as S and circle the word short. They should not be ambiguous. What do you mean by ambiguous? Confusing. They should not be confusing. And dual in meaning. For example, what do you mean by stationary? Still, as well as this pen, pencil, etc. So in what sense you are using that word? You have to see that. If you are using it in the word still, then use the word still only. Why you are using the word stationary? So avoid the words which have dual meaning. Is everyone clear with that? For example, if the question is, are you educated? Is it a small question or not?
Yes.
The respondent cannot understand the meaning of educated. Does it mean the education up to secondary or higher secondary or graduate? This is called ambiguous question. Confusing. Are you educated? Even second standard child will say, yes, I am educated. He is getting the education, he is educated. So what do you mean by are you educated? It should be a specific question. Are you 10th pass? Are you 12th pass? Are you graduate? Are you professionally qualified? It should be a specific question. Instead, the question should be, what is your education level? Following 5 options can be considered for the answer to this question. You can give MCQ options also. Like option A up to primary, option B up to secondary, up to higher secondary, up to graduate or uneducated. Any confusions in this? So on the left side, write it as S, circle the word short. Next, the arrangement of questions should be logical. So at the top, write down logical order. At the top, write down logical order. Circle the word order and on the left side, write down O. The order of questions should be from general to specific. For example, what is your opinion about the smartphone? Do you use smartphone? This is improper arrangement of the questions. The correct order is first question, do you use smartphone? That is question B. Then followed by question A, what is your opinion about the smartphone? Okay, example I also gave you. First question should be, are you married? Second question should be, how many children do you have? That is a logical order. Sixth, questions of sensitive nature or personal life should be avoided. I gave you the example, extramarital affair. For example, questions relating to marital status, other sources of income of respondent, etc. If such questions are necessary in the survey, an assurance should be given to the respondent that the information provided by him or her will be kept confidential and will not be used for any other purpose. So at the top, write down going personal avoided. Going personal avoided. And on the left side, write down G. Any doubts up till here? 7th, answers to the questions should be free from any calculations. So unlike free from any calculations, circle the word calculations, left side write down C. For example, avoid the questions like what is the average income of the earning member of your family. As I said, no one is going to count the average of last 5-6 years. And last, the questions having answers yes or no or multiple alternatives should be asked. And like yes or no or multiple alternatives, and above that write down objective questions. Above that write down objective questions. On the left side, mark it as O. But the questions whose answers do not have specific options should be avoided. For example, what is your opinion about the semester system against the yearly system in education? No one will be able to write that. If you give options, they'll answer it. Since there are a lot of variations in the answers like strongly in favor, neutral, against, strongly against, they are difficult to tabulate or interpret. Hence, if necessary, there must be minimum number of such questions in the questionnaire. And then a sample of questionnaire is already given to you. Did you understand this? They have given us an activity below. What is that? Prepare a suitable questionnaire to collect the data regarding the popularity of different types of chocolates among the students of your school. So, you all will do this tomorrow, and I want you to make 15 questions on it. All of you will make a questionnaire. See the sample of questionnaire. First question, name. Second, sex, female or male. Third, place, village, district, school, etc. So that way make a question, list of how many questions? 15 questions. And what is the topic or the heading you will give to that? Popularity of different types of chocolates. Right, everyone? So everyone will make a list of 15 questions based on the same. Plus you'll learn this and come tomorrow. So any confusions in this? All are clear with it? So once again, what are the characteristics of a questionnaire? It should be short and simple to understand. C, should be O, order should be logical as well as objective. R, relevant to the purpose of inquiry. I, idea about the purpose or objective from the title. N, number of questions should be adequate, neither more nor less. And G, going personal should be avoided. Any confusions in this?
No.
Let us take up with second chapter, continuous frequency distribution. Anyone remaining to write this? Shall I erase it? All have written it? No. Means in the textbook we have already written it. So all have completed that, right? How many terms did we do yesterday? Lower limit, upper limit, inclusive, exclusive. So what is lower limit? Minimum value of any given class. Upper limit, maximum value of any given class. Exclusive does not include the upper limit. Example? 0 to 10, 10 to 20. It will not include 10, it will not include 20. And inclusive which includes the upper limit. Okay, 0 to 9, 10 to 9. And when do we use exclusive? When the variable itself is continuous, which can be in decimals. Then we use 0 to 10, 10 to 20. And then we use 0 to 9, 10 to 90. Variable is discrete, but the range of the data is very large. So we have to make classes in discrete. We can use 0 to 9 because there will be no value between 9 to 10. But both are different ways of presenting the same question. Is everyone clear with it? Now, fifth term, write down. Lower boundary point. Fifth term is lower boundary point. Now, lower boundary point is the average of lower limit of given class plus upper limit of preceding class. What do you mean by preceding?
Before.
Yes, previous or before class divided by 2. Okay, this is the formula. How do you find the lower boundary point? Lower limit of given class plus upper limit of preceding class divided by 2. Theoretically, how do you write the definition? Average of. Lower boundary point is the average of lower limit of given class and upper limit of preceding class. Once again, how do you define it? average of lower limit of given class and upper limit of preceding class. Understand it? For example, if you have 10 to 14, 15 to 19, 20 to 24, 25 to 29. Now suppose I am talking about the class 15 to 19. What is the lower limit of this class?
15.
What is the upper limit of preceding class? 29 divided by 2, 14.5. This is called lower boundary point. Lower limit is 15, but lower boundary point is 14.5. Is everyone clear with it? If I had to find the lower boundary point of this class, how would I do it? 20 plus 19 divided by 2. Okay?
39.
Yes, 19.5. 20 plus 9, 39 divided by 2, 19.5. Now suppose the classes are 10 to 15, 15 to 20, 20 to 25, 25 to 30.
15.
Now, what is the second class?
15.
Lower limit
15
plus upper limit
15.
30 divided by 2, 15 itself. In short, lower boundary point is relevant only when the classes are inclusive. It is irrelevant if the classes are
Exclusive.
because in exclusive classes lower limit and lower boundary point are same.
Same.
But in inclusive classes lower limit and lower boundary point are
Different.
is it enough clear that?
Yes.
So when would we be required to find this lower boundary point?
Inclusive.
Only in inclusive type of classes. It will not be asked in exclusive classes. Any confusions in this? Let out this formula. Completed everyone? Now, same way one more term is the upper boundary point. It is equal to upper limit of given class plus lower limit of succeeding class. What do you mean by succeeding? Yes, next class divided by 2. Raise your hand. How would you define this? Raise your hand, not your voice. Last bench, second, yes.
Average of upper limit of given class plus lower limit of succeeding class divided by 2.
No. Yes.
The average of upper limit of given class
okay.
and lower limit of succeeding class.
Sit down. You also tell me.
Average of upper limit of given class and lower limit of succeeding class.
Very good. Sit down. When we use the word average, then we'll not use the word plus and we'll not use the word divide by 2 because average means plus and divide by 2. So you'll simply say it is average of upper limit of given class and lower limit of succeeding class. That's it. Is everyone of you clear with this? So raise your hand. For this class, what would be the upper boundary point? Raise your hand. How would you find it? Upper boundary point for this class. What is your name? Janvi. 24
plus 15.
plus 15. How did you get 15?
29. Sorry, 25.
24 upper limit of given class plus 25 lower limit of succeeding class divided by 2. 49 divided by 2. 24.5.
5.
Did you understand this? Is everyone of you clear with it? So upper limit of given class plus lower limit of succeeding class divided by 2. Anyone who is not clear with these two terms? And the last term is class length, which is denoted by C. Class length is denoted by C. Now, how do you find this class length? Tell me first of all, 10 to 15, 15 to 20, what is the length of the class? 5. And 10 to 14, 15 to 19?
4.
Here also C is 5. They are just different ways of presenting it, but the presentation includes the same observations. 10 to 15 will include which observations? 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Would it include 15? No. That would come in the next class. So how many observations are included?
5.
Here also 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Here it includes 14 because next begins with 15. Same observations are included both the places. Class length of both is 5. Did you understand this or not, everyone? So how do you find the class length? Upper boundary point minus lower boundary point. If you do it as upper limit minus lower limit, it is wrong. Like this class, what is the upper boundary point? 19 plus 20 divided by 2, 19.5. Minus what is the lower boundary point? 15 plus 14 divided by 2, 14.5. You get it as 5. But if you do 19 minus 15, you get it as 14. So it is wrong to say upper limit minus lower limit. What is the correct meaning of class length? Upper boundary point minus lower boundary point. What is wrong? Upper limit minus lower limit is wrong. Here both are same. Upper boundary point is also 20. Upper limit is also 20. Lower boundary point and lower limit both are. So here you can use upper limit minus lower limit. But in inclusive classes, this type of classes, it should be strictly used as upper boundary point minus lower boundary point. Understood that? Write it down. Completed, everyone? Now, whenever we solve the practical questions, one main rule we will follow in solving the practical questions. The rule is that C into K must be greater than equal to R or less than equal to R. You can see that rule on page number 18. Page Page number 18. Do you find continuous frequency distribution? In that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, ninth line. Do you find C into K greater than or equal to R? Now what is this? Understand it. Here, C is the class length which we already studied right now. K is the number of classes. And R is the range. Range means highest observation minus lowest observation. If C is given in the question, then K can be obtained as, if you bring C on the right side, what will happen? R divided by C. Here it's multiplied, so if you bring on the other side, it will get divided. And if K is given, you need to find RC, then R divided by K stands for number of classes. And what you will do is round it off to the previous integer. If your answer comes 5.45, then you take it as 5. So this condition will be fulfilled. C into K must be greater than or equal to R. Note down this rule. So whenever we solve the questions, we'll try to maintain this rule that C into K comes greater than or equal to R. In short, if C is given, how can you find K? R upon C. Range is to be divided. Okay, and if K is given, how can you find C? R divided by K. And then what you have to do is, after you find any of the two, round it off to the next integer. Is everyone clear with this? So look at page number 36. Question exercise 2.1. Question 2. Did you take it out? Page 36, exercise 2.1, question number 2 be attended. The age in full years of 60 employees working in an office are registered as follows. And then age and underline 60 employees. Raise your hand. What is variable and what is frequency? Raise your hand. Simran?
Age is variable and number of employees is frequency.
Yes, age is variable and number of employees is frequency. Now tell me, raise your hand, age is a discrete variable or continuous variable? Raise your hand. Age is a discrete variable or a continuous variable? So it continuous variable. It can be in decimals. You can have a person 20.5 years of age. So age can be in decimals, means it is a continuous variable. Would you make inclusive classes or exclusive classes? Exclusive. Because it is continuous variable, you will make exclusive classes. Raise your hand who did not understand this. Are you all clear with this? Any confusions? See, don't go by the observations given in the question. In question you are not given decimal observations, but think it practically. Can age be in decimals or not? Yes. If I write the range 5 to 10, then a person can have any value between 5 to 10 years of age. So if it can assume any specific value in a range, then it is called which variable? Continuous. in the question whether they are given in decimals or not does not make any difference. Practically, is age a discrete variable or a continuous variable? Continuous, because age can be in decimals. And because it's a continuous variable, we will make exclusive frequency distribution. Any confusions in this? So age mark it as xi, employees mark it as fi. Prepare frequency distribution by taking class length as 5. And class length 5. Class length is given, so with this formula need not be used. Directly class length is given as 5. What is the lowest value in the question?
21.
Lowest value in the question?
21.
Yes, 21. Last row, last fourth observation. Do you all find it? Underline that. Highest?
58.
First row, middle, you find 58. Underline that. Lowest is 21. And what is the class length we have to take?
5.
So we will start from 20 to 25. Don't start from 21 to 26. Start from proper numbers, exact numbers. So if the class length is 5, then start from 20 to 25. Means start from multiple of 5. Is 20 a multiple of 5?
Yes.
Start from 20. Is 21 a multiple of 5? Don't start 21 to 26. So 21 is the lowest observation, means what will be our first class? 20 to 25. Same way, raise your hand. 58 is the highest observation, so what would be the last class? 55 to 60. We'll start from 20 to 25 and right up till 55 to 60. Raise your hand who wants me to explain it again. And the procedure of telemarking same as we discussed in the last period. So, shall I take it up? Anyone who wants me to explain the things again before solving it? Okay, let's solve it then. First you'll write lowest observation. That is 21. Now in bracket mention which class we will keep for 21? 20 to 25. Why not 20 to 24 inclusive and by exclusive 20 to 25? Because age is a continuous variable. Is everyone clear with this? And highest observation is 58. So the last class will be 55 to 60. All are clear up till here? Now, therefore, continuous frequency distribution is prepared as below. We always make how many columns?
3.
First column is for variable. What is the variable here? So age in bracket years and xi. Second column tally marks, not tally marks, tally marks. And last column number of employees in bracket fi. So 3 columns you'll have. Now, as we discussed, 21 is the lowest observation. So what shall be the first class? 20 to 25. So 20 to 25, 25 to 30, 30 to 35, 35 to 40, 40 to 45, 45 to 50, 50 to 55, last class 55 to 60. Shall I proceed? In such questions, be careful. Exclusive questions, be careful with the values ending with 5 and 0. Where would 35 come? Where would 30 to 35, 35 to 40? So be careful. Because knowingly also you'll make a mistake. You know that 35 should come in. 35 to 40, the problem is with your eyes. If you see this 35 first while doing the markings and you're deeply involved in that, you by mistake make a telemark here. So at the back of your mind, keep it in mind. If any value ends with 0 or 5, you don't have to take it in the first class, you have to take it in the second class, next class. So be careful in that. Okay? Raise your hand who is still making this columns or table. All have done it. Shall I do the telemarking? Values are big. Don't read 3 at a time like we did in the previous question because the values were small there. Read 1 at a time and do the telemark. Okay. So I am doing it on the board and you also do it simultaneously with me. 32 will come between 30 to 35. Any confusions? 42, 40 to 45. 48, 45 to 50. 35, 35.
35 to 40.
35 to 40, be careful. 23, 20 to 25, 58, 55 to 60, 52, 50 to 55, 38, 35 to 40, 36, 35 to 40, 44, 40 to 45, 48, 45 to 50, 39, 35 to 40. Raise your hand who is not able to understand. All are clear with the telemarking? 24, 20 to 25, 27, 25 to 30, 29, 25 to 30, 32, 30 to 35, 34, 30 to 35, 41, 40 to 45, 45,
45 to 50.
45 to 50, be careful. Not 40 to 45, 45 to 50. 51, 50 to 55, 30, 30,
35,
30 to 35, not 30, 25 to 30, okay? Be careful with such numbers. 47, 45 to 50, 45, 45 to 50. All are able to understand this? Will you do the last 3 lines on your own? Do the 3rd, 4th and 5th row on your own. Telemarking everyone. Got it everyone? Who are completed? So what is the frequency first one?
3, 8, 10, 11, 12, 7, 6, 3, 16.
Total is?
68.
What do you write as sigma?
F5.
So all are clear with this? Telemarking procedure? Any confusions? See, presently no homework because more practice we will do on continuous frequency distribution. 2-3 questions more will solve tomorrow. Then I'll give you homework in this. Okay? Mainly you have to understand how to make the classes, etc. So more practice we'll do, then I'll give you the homework. You only one homework for tomorrow, that is making a questionnaire. All of you will make a questionnaire of around 15 questions. Okay? Bye everyone.
Nice.